Yeah, so last night, for those of you who are here for the preview for parents, we did an experiment, right? Did we have fun? Yeah. Kinda? Who here left frustrated? Yeah, good. That's good. So I played an atheist. I did an atheist role play and kind of pressed into the students about their Christian convictions and tried to defend the atheistic worldview, the naturalistic worldview. Naturalism is simply the belief that everything that exists is the product of a purely physical process. There's no supernatural component. There's nothing outside the material realm. And so tonight, I'd like to maybe clean up a little bit of the mess I left by offering why I'm now a Christian. And we started, or at least I started my story by I met a girl, right? So I met my now wife, Rihanna. And then, this is Rihanna. Meet Rihanna. Everybody say, hi, Rihanna. Hi, Rihanna. Yeah, she's way prettier than that. But yeah, no, so I met a girl. I had moved from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles, California. I met her on my first night through a series of events, some of which we talked about last night. She ended up bringing me to church for the first time ever. I'd never been to church. I'd never had a church experience ever. I didn't know any Christians growing up. And eventually, though, she before that, she came out as a Christian, and for me, that totally rocked my world because I couldn't date a stupid Christian, right? I mean, that's what we talked about last night a little bit. Because in my mind, I thought Christians were dumb, they were weak-minded followers. I mean, if I'm being honest, like what I thought Christians maybe believed what they believed because it brought them a sense of peace. That I could understand. But I certainly didn't think Christians believed because there was anything true about their worldview. I thought it was completely subjective, and you can believe whatever you want as far as religion goes. Just don't, force your morals, force your religion on me. And I only shared part of the story last night, and then a little bit this morning during the Q&A. She brought me to church. Pastor Dave rejected me. You guys remember that, right? Pastor Dave rejected me. Then he gave me that book on Christian apologetics. And I got my hands on a New Believer's Bible, and I read that. And at the same time all of this was happening, I was wrestling with reality. I was wrestling with the way the world really is. You see, what I teach my kids is reality is the way the world really is. And what I mean by that is reality, it doesn't bend and contort itself according to our personal preferences, our likes and our dislikes. The world is a certain way. Hard stop, period. Right? That means reality. Reality is that thing that you bump into when you don't live according to it. And for me, there were a few bumps of reality that I experienced as an atheist trying to live in a world that God made. And some of those bumps, they hurt. And I'd like to talk to you tonight about 3 of those bumps. We'll take them one at a time. The first one is what I call the bump of stuff. And it's really kind of simple. Sometimes I feel like we make things too complicated. It starts like this. Stuff exists, right? The chairs we're sitting in, the podium my computer's on, the TV screen you're staring at right now, it exists. The question that we have to be asking, though, is where'd all the stuff come from? We can explain the TV, the computer stand, we can explain the chair, but the bigger question is what caused all the stuff? What caused the beginning of the universe? And for an atheist, this put me in a really difficult position because not only is it not complicated, it's not controversial. There's only 2 possibilities, right? Either something caused everything or nothing caused everything. And this put me in a difficult position as an atheist because I didn't want to say nothing caused everything. I didn't want to say something caused everything because the moment you say something caused everything, that something has to take on certain properties. It has to be incredibly creative, immensely powerful. It has to be outside of its own creation, so that means it has to be outside of time and space. And before you know it, that something starts to look like something specific. What's it start to look like? God. And I did not want to say God. So instead, I wanted to say nothing caused everything. And when I say nothing, we touched on this briefly. I don't mean the nothing of like Lawrence Krauss, right? This is Lawrence Krauss. Everybody say hi, Lawrence. Hi, Lawrence. Lawrence Krauss is an astrophysicist. He's very, very smart. He wrote a book called Something from Nothing. He's an atheist. He says he equates nothing as a quantum vacuum, but even a quantum vacuum is something. It had to come from somewhere. I mean nothing, like what I talked about last night, the nothing of Socrates. Nothing, that which rocks dream about. What do rocks dream about? Why? Because they're rocks. Rocks don't dream. So when I say everything came from nothing, this is a philosophical nothing. It's the negation of all things. And who in his right mind or her right mind says everything came from this nothing? I mean, guys, just think about living in a world where we get stuff from nothing. You could be driving down the hill, going down to civilization from here, cruising with your music blasting because you've been on a music fast, so you got your Taylor Swift going. I know you guys love Taylor. So you know, whatever it is that you're blasting, you've got it going down the road, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, poof, a cow just pops into existence. I mean, that's terrible, right? That's the type of world where we would live in. Like, imagine living in that kind of world, or imagine trying to do things like science, where stuff just pops into and out of existence from nothing. Looking up into the stars and trying to discern. Have you guys seen the Webb telescope photos that are coming back at all? Any of you guys? This is amazing stuff. You know, the Webb telescope is the most powerful telescope that we've ever launched up into space. And its primary job is to stare at the most remote parts of the galaxy, where we think there's just total darkness. Do I have a Boston accent tonight? I am so sorry. All right, keep it going. Gives you guys something to focus on. So it's focusing in the most remote parts of the galaxy. And the images that are coming back that scientists are, part of them are expecting is just darkness, like just black. It's coming back with amazing pictures of all of these specks of light. And each one of these specks of light, they're not just stars, but they're the solar systems and galaxies. It's unbelievable. You know, imagine looking up through that telescope and all of a sudden, poof, 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 out of everywhere, this stuff just starts popping into and out of existence out of nowhere. I mean, the universe would be completely unlivable. Think about doing biology, medicine. You're trying to diagnose somebody with an illness, and you can't get a track on it because the cancer cells just pop into and out of existence out of nowhere. It's unlivable. It doesn't line up with the way the world is. It doesn't line up with reality. I have an example. I have a good example of this. I think it's a good example of this. I was walking in Disneyland. Has anybody here been to Disneyland? Okay. Who's here has been to California Adventure? Right, so California Adventure, I was taking the kids and my wife was there. I don't know if you guys remember this, you might be too little. We have one of those awesome strollers, you know, it has like the inflatable tires, so it's super easy to roll. I have 4 daughters, you can be praying for me. Okay, I've got a 13, 14, almost 15, a 12, almost 13, an 11, and an 8-year-old. There's somebody always crying in my house. Like, constantly. And it's usually me. Like in the fetal position, wondering what in the world is happening. So we pack up all 4 of my girls and we drive them to Disneyland and we go to California Adventure and there's Maida's Wild Ride. And it's like my favorite. I love Maida's Wild Ride. And so what we did is we took the stroller and we packed it next to, you know, the bazillion strollers right outside the ride. You guys know what I'm talking about. And we stand in line. And actually at Disneyland, the line is my favorite part. My kids think I'm funny because I love to talk to the people around me. I just love chit-chatting, figuring out what they believe and why they believe, and maybe I can have a Jesus conversation. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe just meet somebody interesting. And so we packed the stroller, and as we're standing in line, we hear, bang, bang! Like that. And how did everybody react when they heard the 2 bangs, do you think? Whoa. What do you think the question that they asked was? What was that? Notice nobody stood there and was like, there are those bangs out of nowhere. They just happened. It happens all the time, you know. And like, no, it doesn't happen all the time. Well, we rode the ride, and then we found out what the big bangs were. Do you girls remember? It was our tires on our stroller because I had overinflated them, and I packed it in the hot sun, so both tires popped. So now I'm carrying kids through Disneyland, right? Like, never mind strollering them, carrying them. You know, but this is what I mean, is the world is a certain way, and when we look at the world and we seek to live in the world, we need to explain the phenomena that we see. Does stuff just pop into and out of existence from nothing? No, so why would we think the universe itself, everything, all the stuff, why would we think that pops into and out of existence from nothing? This is the first bump. This is the bump of stuff. It's not, are you guys picking up what I'm throwing down? You guys get it? It's not too hard, right? You know, as an atheist, I couldn't explain where all the stuff came from. But on Christian theism, there's an answer. Because on Christian theism, in the Christian worldview, we have an uncaused cause. We have a creator God. It perfectly explains the phenomena that we see. It explains the world around us. Pretty clear. All right, that's the first one. This one's the most difficult. It was, it still is. This is the bump of bad. As an atheist, I knew certain things were wrong. As an atheist, I knew, for example, you know, what happened in the furnaces of Auschwitz was wrong. But what did I mean when I said they were wrong? Like, what was I saying? Just like with the bump of stuff, where did all the stuff come from? We have to ask the question, what did I mean? Well, I meant they were awful, it was wicked, it ought not ever happen. It was gruesome and horrible. I didn't mean it was like against my personal convictions or my opinion. I wasn't appealing to my emotions. I was saying what happened in the furnaces of Auschwitz was wrong. But what was I basing that idea of right and wrong on as an atheist? You know, if I wasn't describing my emotions, I was describing the actions themselves. This is what's known as objective morality. But on atheism, we have no objective morality because we have no objective standard to base reality on. You know, I was describing more than just the actions themselves. I wasn't just describing my emotions. And this is what I said, the difference between an objective moral standard and a relative moral standard. Morality on the inside, how I feel about it, the morality on the outside that actually exists. This became a reality for me a long time ago now. But I got to visit the Nazi concentration camp of Auschwitz. Has anybody been there? It's life-changing, right? It'll change your life. I flew into Poland just to go to I was teaching in Germany this stuff. I was teaching students your age in Germany. So I flew into Poland in the Krakow just to go to this camp, just to go to Auschwitz. And I load onto a tour bus. I caught a tour bus at a hotel that I wasn't staying at. I load on, and the people that I loaded onto the bus with, I was the only person getting on. And on the bus were like 14 of the most rowdy Irish people. They were like your typical Irish dudes, your age. They were like 19, 20, 21, just graduating high school, just going on holiday. These guys were like throwing each other over the seats of the bus. Like, I thought they were gonna kill each other. I've got all girls, guys. We don't do that in my house. There's no wrestling in my house. It makes me feel so awkward. And they were doing it the whole ride, and it's a long ride. And then they get off the bus, and they're throwing each other off the bus. And then we stand at the gates of Auschwitz. And what do you think happened to their demeanor? Completely. Nobody needed to tell them. Nobody said, hey, settle down. We found ourselves standing, surrounded by hundreds of people on a beautiful July day, not a cloud in the sky, and not a sound in the air. Because everybody knows when you stand at those iron gates, the weight of what you are about to experience. For me, there were a lot of exhibits, the 10,000 pounds of women's hair that lied behind a glass wall, or the exhibit of hundreds of prosthetic limbs that were taken from victims as they were sent to the gas chambers. For me, this is one of the most impactful exhibits that I got to experience in Auschwitz. It was a table, probably about the size of this wall, the length of this wall, and had a glass top to it. And in the display case were child's playthings. This here is just a picture of one of the maybe dozen or so shattered porcelain dolls. Each one of these, the reason why it's impactful maybe is because each one of these represents a little girl who, after surviving the transport in a cattle car, steps off of that cattle car, and instead of going right, she goes left, straight to the gas chambers, because on the economy of Nazis, little girls meant nothing. Sent to their death, all of their things confiscated. Each one of those dolls, to me, I could see my children's face in. They were ushered right here. This is a picture, an actual picture of an Auschwitz gas chamber. There are two of them, they mirror each other. The Nazis would load that chamber full of people, pop a canister of gas, toss it in, close the door. On average, it took 13 minutes for the 150 or so people inside that room to suffocate to death. When the screams stopped and they couldn't sense any movement inside, they would open the doors and they would take the bodies and they put them in one of these. There were 4 of these sleds. There's a mirroring portion over here. They put the bodies here and then they rammed this into a furnace where they would burn the corpses, these lifeless bodies of, at first, women and children, Jews, anybody that the Nazis saw fit to die. They put on that sled and burnt them to death. Where a fire raged, they're already dead. Where a fire raged 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At its height, its most productive year, 2,000 bodies got burnt in that. 2 million bodies, in 1 year got burnt in that furnace. And the ashes of those bodies, they would rise up this smokestack. This is on a hill. This is below and buried in the hill. It would rise up that smokestack. And the thing that impacted me, maybe, it stays with me at least, is over here, there was a house. And there was a metal fence, a razor wire, and then another fence, and then a house, a nice house. And the report was, at least my tour guide told me, that the people that lived in that house, they lived there, they occupied that house for the entirety of the time that Auschwitz was in operation. They never once complained about the screams. They never once complained about the smell of burning flesh. What they complained about most was the ash that fell in their swimming pool, polluting it, the ash of dead bodies. Who in their right mind can look at this and say, you do you, boo. You do you. We all know that this is wrong. But where are we getting that sense of wrongness? Because on naturalism, all I have is myself. I'm the master of my own ship. Might makes right on naturalism. As a naturalist, as a former atheist, this caused me a lot of issues when I started to be pressed on it. My brother, my brother's a good dude. I think I told you guys this morning. Dan, he's older than me by 4 years. He runs a nonprofit in inner city Boston, helping underprivileged families with tech, and it's amazing what he's doing. And he's an atheist, but what I haven't told you is he's also a vegan. I don't know which one's worse. Like, do you really want heaven with no meat? I don't think so. No bacon? But he's a vegan. But at least he's consistent in his veganism. Like, he doesn't own anything leather. He wears, like, plastic shoes. And he like, no leather furniture, no leather in his car, none of that stuff. And he's a hardcore environmentalist. Out of his veganism has been birthed its hardcore environmentalism. And one time, my brother and I were talking about this stuff outside of my old office when I was working as a full-time pastor at the big church. And we're standing outside my office, and him and I are in this, and we're arguing, and we get loud with each other. Like, if you haven't noticed so far, guys, like, I get passionate. And so does my brother. Like, our love language is yelling. And we're, like, straight up yelling. It's not because we're mad. It's just because we're passionate, and we're talking about the existence of moral values. And I'm saying, Dan, you have no justification for ultimate right and wrong on your system of belief because you're an atheist. You have no standard because in order to have a law, you need a lawgiver. You have no moral law outside of your personal preference. And he's like, no, John, we have a social contract that we come together under, and I kind of argued this as an atheist a little bit last night. And out of the building, it was really funny, out of the building, my old boss, the lead pastor of this church, he comes out and asks us to actually be quiet. He's like, John, you need to be quiet. Everybody in the church can hear you yelling at each other. Not a good look. I was like, yeah, you're right, Pastor Doug, no problem. So I say to my brother, and this is important, atheist, vegan, environmentalist. I say, Dan, you know what, Pastor Doug is completely right. It's more heat than light being produced right now. Let's take a step back. And actually, you know what? I've been meaning to invite you. I did this. This is true. I've been meaning to invite you to a weekend getaway that me and a bunch of guys, maybe 4 or 5 guys and I, we rent a Lake Arrowhead. We rent a house on Lake Arrowhead. And it's beautiful. If you guys have never been down there, it's in the southern part of California. Beautiful lake. We rent this house, and I say, Dan, it's such a good time. Good guys, good people, good conversation. I'll wash off like a portion of the grill so you can have, I don't know what it is that you're going to meet, your barley or whatever. And, and we'll take care of you and make sure we don't mix the good meat with your barley. And I say, but the best, and he's getting enticed. He's like, this sounds good. And I said, wait, I haven't even gotten to the best part of the weekend yet. What we do, the best part of the weekend, is we rent a boat and we go out onto the lake. And then we take a 50-gallon drum of sulfuric acid with us and we dump it into the lake. And we see how many fish it kills. And what we do is before we do that, we take a bet on how many fish it kills. And whoever gets closest to the number of fish it kills wins all the money. And it's so much fun. And by the time I say it's so much fun, my brother, I look up at him, and he's got veins popping out of him like I've never seen before in a human being. His eyes are beet red like I thought he was going to kill me. What does he say, do you think? What do you guys think he says? Horrible. He says to me, he's like, you can't do that. That's what he says to me. You can't do that. And I put on my 3-year-old response cap. I say, well, Dan, yes, actually, I can do that. I can rent a house on Lake Arrowhead. I can get a boat. I can procure probably some acid. I'm really good friends with the chair of the chemistry department at Pepperdine University. Joe Fritsch, no problem. I can do that. I said to him, Dan, what you mean is I ought not do that. And then I asked him a question. Dan, where are you getting that oughtness from? Because in the cultural context that I reside in, where I live, my group of friends, we think it's totally fine to kill fish with acid. We don't, okay, guys? It's an example. But I say this to him. In my immediate cultural context, in my social contract, it's fine to do this. And then you know what he says? It's really great. This is a win. He steps back, looks to the upper left, and he says, you know what, John? I need to think about that. Boom. Stone in the shoe. What I'm talking about here, guys, is this is the difference between this is objective morality. In order for somebody to even bring up the problem of evil, you see my, is that movie still popular? You guys know what that reference is? Okay, good. I say I gotta gauge it every once in a while because Dr. Evil isn't so popular anymore. In order for there to be a problem of evil, which is, by the way, the most potent argument against the existence of God throughout history, in order for somebody to even bring the problem up, they have to appeal to objective morality, a standard outside of themselves. So when somebody says something is ultimately wrong, instead of diving into a Christian apologetic, we need to ask them, what do you mean it's ultimately wrong? You know, in some cultures, we talked about last night, some cultures it's okay to eat your neighbor. In some cultures, you're called to love your neighbor. Do you have a preference on which one you want to live in? I do. Well, why is that? Well, because built into every one of us is a sense of right and wrong. If you have somebody who objects to this, I've done this too in the past. If somebody, this here's my, I love watches. I'm not rich, so I can't buy really nice watches, so I buy Casio G-Shocks. And this is a King G, really nice Casio. I love this watch. Say I'm not John, I'm Sam, and Sam and I are talking, and he's like, oh, there's no such thing as right and wrong. Next time this happens with a friend or something like that, or there's no such thing as objective morality, take something that means something to them. Take their watch and just walk away. Put it on your wrist and walk away. Drive away and see what they say. What are you doing? What do you mean, what am I doing? You can't take my watch. Well, I just did take your watch. Like, I am rewriting what is right and wrong, and I think it's okay for me to steal from you. Especially us bigger guys. Try to stop me. Try to stop me. You know? I like your car. I'm just going to take it. You see, this is how the way the world really is. In order to deny that, we have to go through so many hoops. We see it all around us. I love the political season. Not because I love politics, it's just because every political issue is a moral issue. So every time, I love Donald Trump, not because I love Donald Trump, but I love him because my family hates him so much. Because he's such a horrible person. Oh yeah, well, what do you mean by a horrible person? Where are you getting that idea? He might makes right, man. See, this is objective morality. It's the way the world is. You know, we're saying that evil is out there in a very real sense. It's objective. We know it when we see it. We certainly know it when we experience it. So this is the key point for this. Like, right, if naturalism is true, then there's no problem of evil. If naturalism is true, then morality is just my personal preference or my cultural convention or consensus. And on naturalism, guys, there's no problem of evil. And I recognized this as an atheist. I started bumping into this because I was so quick to object when I saw evil in the world. But you don't sin and I didn't realize this until later, we don't sin against particles. On naturalism, all we are is particles. We sin against people. And that's what makes it ultimately wrong when we hurt people. So this is the bump of bad. And it's just like with the bump of stuff, the existence of bad in the world, it needs an explanation that's adequate to explain its existence. Eventually I saw that, I actually saw that eliminating God, this was actually a light-on moment for me, a light bulb moment. I saw that eliminating God does nothing to solve the problem. You see, the wonderful thing about evil is we all experience it regardless of worldview. That means every worldview needs to explain its existence. And me objecting to the existence of God based on the amount of evil in the world does nothing to solve the problem. I still have the problem. All it does is get rid of one of the possible solutions. I'd argue now that it gets rid of the only solution, Jesus Christ. So not only do Christians, not only can we accurately explain the way the world is, we can explain the existence of evil and where it comes from, but we actually have a solution to offer to people, unlike any other worldview in existence. But there's more. You see, I wasn't just wrestling with the idea that there was objective oughtness out in the world that we live in. And as I struggled with the existence of good and bad, right and wrong, as I came to the conclusion that everything around me had to come from somewhere or someone, there was another aspect of reality that I bumped into. Right? So we have the bump of stuff, the bump of bad, and thirdly and lastly, we have what I call the bump of me. This is the soul. I think as Christians, we don't talk enough about the soul. I think we should. Because it's a key aspect of the world that we live in that we all know exists at some level. It's our soul, guys. It's our soul that hungers for deep meaning and ultimate significance and unconditional love and acceptance. I mean, what do we do with our deepest desires and our deep brokenness? Our souls cry out for these things. Some people, we want to call this consciousness, right? Maybe we'll say it's our conscious self, and the reason why we use that word consciousness is maybe to get rid of any spiritual implication. But what we mean is that immaterial aspect of ourselves that we're all aware of. And there's three components to the soul that I want to talk about with you guys. I'm so glad you guys are understanding my references. Yes. The first one is that souls are real. What do you mean, John? Well, your soul is that thing that you introspect to. I mean, your soul is that thing that you think to. Right? Even right now, I'm giving this presentation and I'm thinking thoughts in my mind that have nothing to do with this talk. Where are those thoughts? What is that thing that your soul is that thing that you're aware of every waking moment of every day. And I can prove to you that your soul is real. You want me to prove it to you? No? Do you want me to prove it to you? Yeah. All right. Yeah, okay, everybody, close your eyes. Do not fall asleep. Close your eyes. All right, I want you guys to picture the greenest grass field you've ever pictured in your entire life. And I want you to be walking through that field. Now, who here, raise your hand, who here can see that field? Keep your eyes closed. Okay. Put your hands down. Now, I want you to bend down, and I want you to grab a clump of that grass between your index finger and thumb and pull it up. Who here can touch that grass? Raise your hand. Yeah, okay. Put your hands down. Now, I want you to roll that grass between your fingers. I want you to lift it up to your nose and take a deep breath. Who here smells that fresh grass cut smell? Yeah. Put your hands down. Now, open your eyes, guys. I'm going to ask you a question. Is that piece of grass closer to your left ear or your right? Some of you are like, huh? You're right? No. If you're confused, you should be. Because the question doesn't make sense, because the piece of grass doesn't manifest itself, doesn't exist in the physical realm. It doesn't exist anywhere in here. It exists in that immaterial aspect of yourself. It exists in your soul, in your mind. That piece of grass, so notice the power of your soul. The power of your soul. You can engage your senses. I mean, most of you could see the grass. Like a lot of you could touch the grass, and many of you could smell the grass. And I bet you a few of you knuckleheads could actually taste the grass if I asked you to. But you can engage all of these senses to ask the question, where does that grass exist, close to the right ear or the left ear, is to do what's called a category mistake. It's like asking the question, what does the note C sharp taste like? It doesn't taste like anything because it's a musical note. And it's the same thing with asking where the grass is, because it doesn't exist in the physical world. It exists in your mind, in your soul. And something that we engage with our entire lives. This is a huge problem for the atheist. Because the atheist is a naturalist most of the time. And if they're a naturalist, remember what I said at the beginning. Everything that exists is the product of a purely physical process. All that exists is in the physical realm. The atheist cannot answer you the question, where is that piece of grass? They can't, because they can't justify the soul. It's that immaterial, they're real. It's that immaterial aspect that we have. It's like this. Have you guys ever had a song stuck in your head? Okay, my kids, they go through phases, and usually, they go back to Encanto. We don't talk about. Yeah, you're welcome. It'll be there all night long. But the same question, guys. Where's that song? Like in order to get that song out of your head, should I split open your scalp, crack open your skull, and sift through your gray matter? No. Why? Because you'll die. That's not what we mean when we say a song is stuck in your head. It's in that immaterial aspect. It's in your soul. Yeah.
When you ask an atheist that question, what's
So most of the time you get what I call the sounds of silence. It's like the Simon and Garfunkel response. Nothing, crickets. Sometimes you'll get an atheist that tells you, well, it's the chemicals in my brain. It's like, the neurons firing and causing chemicals, but that's not an adequate response. Because the neurons and the chemicals don't possess the greenness of grass, the smell of grass. In order for them to be the same thing, they have to satisfy the law of identity.
So would having to admit that a consciousness is a thing would have to admit that a soul is a thing?
Yeah. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but when people appeal to conscious selves, it's the soul. And so if it makes you more comfortable to call it a conscience, then fine. But we all know, then now prove that we have conscience. Most atheists, Daniel Dennett, he's addressed this issue, and he says that he's an atheist, consciousness is an illusion that's appeared to our conscious selves. But if consciousness is an illusion that appears to our conscious selves, it's a tautology. Because it's like the illusion's just appearing to what? The illusion, because ourselves that are conscious are just an illusion? It makes no sense. It falls apart. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, what atheists believe that consciousness comes from.
Yeah, so they deny that conscious exists. At best, they'd say it's an illusion or something that it's a byproduct of evolution to aid in our adaptation and survival. But we've just proven that they're real, that they exist. It's not just an illusion. We interact with it. We interact with many of you right now are like thinking thoughts in your mind that you're not saying. Those thoughts, they exist, but where are they? They're immaterial in nature. And for an atheist, they can't explain that because all they have is the physical world to rely on. You can't put your thoughts in a beaker. You can't put your thoughts in a science test tube.
Does that also apply to
Well, knowledge would be, we store the knowledge in our conscious selves, in our soul. Yeah.
So like our souls can learn.
I'm sorry?
So like, if we were like born with like our soul that we have, like we learn with that soul.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. This is how we process things. Because we're more than just like, on naturalism, and we're going to get to this in a second, right? Because not only are souls real, but souls are special. Right? Souls are special. You know, we all know that human beings are special. We're valuable. That's why we cry out for justice in the face of injustice. You know, but on naturalism, I couldn't ground this. Like, why are we special? On naturalism, all I am is a moist robot. On naturalism, I'm just a random quantification of molecules just dancing to my DNA. I'm an accidental byproduct of evolution. That's it. At best, I'm a more evolved primate. But what does that say about human existence? What's that do for value on human beings? You know, because on naturalism, we're reduced to cosmic junk, ultimately. You know, and on naturalism, we've got no purpose. On naturalism, nothing ultimately matters outside of any maybe meaning that I want to personally prescribe to life. I see this all the time. My number one topic, we talked about this morning, my number one topic that I talk about around the world now is suicide. And I see that the havoc that naturalism has caused. Because ideas have consequences, students. And bad ideas have victims. And we see a lot of victims of a lot of bad ideas out there. And one of them, and I think a major one undergirding the culture, is this naturalism. Because what does naturalism teach? You're just cosmic junk. Who cares? This isn't me, by the way. Read the naturalist. Read the atheist. Richard Dawkins, he says that the universe that we observe has precisely the properties that we should expect if there is at bottom no design, no purpose, no justice, nothing. This is Richard Dawkins. Nothing but pitiless indifference. Before him, Thomas Hobbes and Leviathan. Life is solitary, poor, brutish, and nasty. Get busy living, get busy dying. Who cares? As an atheist, guys, I'll tell you what. This led to dark places very quickly for me. Try and call your atheist friends, your naturalistic friends, to call them to live their worldview out consistently. I remember one night I was walking home from my law office in D.C., and my phone rang in my pocket, and it was my sister. And her name's Katrina, I call her Kay. I pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Kay." On the other end of this phone, Katrina is weeping, hysterically. I said, "Katrina, what's wrong?" Through her tears and her sobs, she says, "Ronzo, he killed himself." And Ronzo was a mutual friend that we had in high school who died. He hung himself in his parents' closet. You want to know what I said to my sister? I'm not lying here. This is what I said to my sister. Out of my naturalism, I literally said this, guys. I said, "Oh, well." I said, "I guess Ronzo couldn't take the heat, so he got out the kitchen." Life goes on. Because Ronzo, he's just a random quantification of molecules. His molecules are just rearranged. Who cares? But every one of us understands. We see that response is so crass. It's so wrong, right? I mean, I hope you see that. Because people are valuable. But on naturalism, how do we ascribe value to human beings? At best, they're a commodity. Maybe an obstacle. But on Christian theism, we see that's the type of soul that we have. We're made in the image of God. That's why we're valuable. You know, when I was as an atheist in saying these things, when I was actually honest with myself in the dark of night and under my comforter, though, that wasn't the testimony of my soul. I knew that people were valuable. That's why I didn't walk around intentionally violating people. That's why I protected people. And that's why, like I said, I cried out for justice in the face of injustice. You know, but I knew something else too. Not only are souls real, not only are they special, but they're broken. And this is really where the rubber really met the road for me. my conscience, my soul testified to the knowledge that not only was the world broken, that brokenness that we talked about out there, but that brokenness was in here too. At a certain point, I realized that not only am I a victim, but I'm a victimizer. You know, the evil that we're so quick to object to that's out there, that same evil is in here. And what do we do with that unnaturalism? We all have a deep-seated need for forgiveness. Have you guys ever realized that? We all do. But where's the natural skill for forgiveness? I mean, think about it. Like, we go through so many lengths in the culture today to explain away a feeling of guilt. Whether it be through psychology, I'm not poo-pooing psychology altogether. Like, I think that it's good. But like, you know, we prescribe pills, and sometimes we run the drugs and alcohol and addiction issues, and we all do this all to escape the understanding or the idea that somehow we're guilty. Well, maybe we feel guilty because we are. Maybe we all intuitively, inherently know that we've broken a law that's above ourselves, and we need forgiveness. But what do we do with that unnaturalism? Naturalism has no answer for that. You know, it has no answer for this deep need for forgiveness. It has no offer of true forgiveness. But Christian theism, it does. And I remember when God awokened my conscience in this way. You know, I remember that because I used to think I was hot stuff. Like, I used to think that I had all the answers. You know, live and lodge, the really successful, the law firm my last law firm I worked at, guys, my clients were Justin Bieber, Kim Kardashian, Mike Tyson. For you parents, Jackson Brown, huh? The students like, who? We represented Nirvana, Bradley Knoll from Sublime, his estate. Oh, I've listened to unreleased Sublime music. Oh yeah, for hours. Nobody's ever going to hear it except for me. These were I had life. I was crushing life, guys. I was crushing life. I still was broken, though. I still needed forgiveness. And in unguarded moments, when I let my presuppositions drop to the floor, I had to wrestle with these things. You know, I let my desire for everything to be made right slip. We all have to live in the world that God made. Whether you believe in him or not, I said it this morning during the Q&A, whether you believe in God or not, we all have to live in his world. You know, and so these are some of the aspects of reality that I bumped into. And when I left my presuppositions, when I left them at the door, I saw in the end that naturalism, it doesn't make sense of the existence of the universe. It doesn't make sense of the problem of evil, the most ardent and popular objection to the existence of God. Actually, I've found that the existence of evil is actually an argument for the existence of God. Because at least God gives us a system by which we can judge good from evil. You know, the naturalism, it doesn't make sense of my own deepest human desires, my own personal guilt. But by contrast, in each one of these areas, Christian theism offers us satisfying answers every step of the way. You know, intellectually, Christian theism proves to be much more satisfying answer to the problems that we face out in the world. And then existentially, personally, Christian theism is the only answer. You know, oftentimes people, if they'll ask me if you only have a minute to say like why you're a Christian, right? I'll say this. I'll say I'm a Christian for one reason, guys. Like just the truth. I'm not a Christian because it's brought me fame and fortune. I'm not a Christian because it feels good. Can we just be honest? Like sometimes it doesn't feel good to be a Christian. I'm a Christian. This is what I say if I'm being cheeky. I say I'm a Christian because I met a girl who bumped into a door. Yeah. And then I bumped into reality when I went looking for answers to life's most important questions, questions of origin, meaning, purpose, destiny, morality. Guys, I'm a Christian because it's true. I'm a Christian because it's the true story of reality. And that means I don't want to believe it if it's not true. You see, the Christian worldview is incredibly freeing, guys. It's incredibly freeing because God has created this entire world all around us. And he's then told us to go out and explore it, testing all things, holding fast to that which is true. God says, here you go. And you know what? The creation around us screams his existence. In fact, in order to believe otherwise, well, we said it before, I don't have enough faith for that. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, guys. I'm a Christian because it's the true story of reality. Thank you guys so much for your attention tonight. I know it's a long night. And I have no idea. It's like they've given the asylum over the inmates. This is great. What time am I supposed to be done?
Anytime, we can keep going.
Oh, nice. Oh, do you guys want to? Do you guys have any questions? Do you want? Oh, whoa, yeah.
I'm curious because when I've talked to atheists before, they like to go back to the naturalistic argument, and they like to talk about the fact that it's all good for evolution. Why does that not really come into play? What with the new rise of homosexuality and that thing? That doesn't seem too hot for evolution. I'm curious why that isn't. Why? Because there's a lot of straw men.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, why that doesn't. Why things are for progressing in evolution. There's a lot of things atheists do that don't really progress us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's an astute observation, and it's a bold question. I appreciate it. And actually, what's interesting is that with all of the gender stuff that's flying around, biologists are actually the ones that are starting to say, stop, no. Because the science doesn't indicate it. And I think homosexuality, as far as evolution, propagating our genes into the next generation, if that's the point of life, which is what an evolutionist, if they're being honest, is going to say, it's part of it. Well, that does nothing. That does nothing to do that. So you ought not be a homosexual. But it's really hard to say that, right? Like if you're going to be a naturalist, but if you're going to be consistent, that's where you have to go. Now, that said, what's interesting is another area where there's an inconsistency is the pro-abortion folks, like my family. Like my family thinks abortion is just fine for any reason at any stage, whatever. But all of a sudden you say, well, what if I find out what if they could find the gay gene, which they haven't found, but what if they can find the gay gene and I find out my unborn son has it? Well, I'm going to kill my unborn son, obviously, because I don't want a gay kid. Whoa, you can't do that. You can't do, wait, why? So you can kill, you can have I won't even put the language out there, but you can have an abortion because you don't want a daughter with brown eyes, right? That's okay. But I can't have my wife get an abortion to avoid having a gay son. And all of the arguments follow. I don't want them to be ridiculed and mocked. I don't want them to have a tough life, right? It's interesting. But this is where what we need to do is we need to learn how to converse with these folks in a way that's winsome and effective, right? 1 Peter 3:15. Always be prepared to give defense for the hope that we have with gentleness and respect, right? So we want to do it. We don't want to be in your face bold, but we can certainly ask strategic questions. Well, what about this, Mr. Atheist? Good. That's a very good observation. Yeah. Did that answer your question? No, I was just affirming what you already believed.
No, I did. I was just curious because it seems that they like to play the roundabout. So I'm just kind of.
There's an inconsistency there. You know what? Yeah. This is why oftentimes conversations fail. Oftentimes with my brother, we've had amazing conversations in the past, but we come to an impasse because I'll say to him, Dan, do you think it's important to be consistent? And he'll say, no. Well, I've got nothing to say to a person that's willing to live in complete, inconsistency. I've got nothing to say.
Right. I've kind of found that I just hit an impasse where I've realized that, okay, I'm not Jesus anymore.
Yeah, well, you need to recognize that.
I have to plant the seed and walk away.
100%.
It's hard when you want to do apologetics and you really want to have conversations and it just kind of goes nowhere. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, so this is where we're going to talk about this tomorrow when we go through just tactics, how to share your faith. This is where I think it becomes really important for us to understand our role and God's role. Our role is not in conversion. We can't convert anything. God can. So the way I say it is God is 100% responsible for his job, and I'm 100% responsible. I am to be an ambassador, right? 2 Corinthians 5:20. I'm an ambassador for Christ, begging on behalf of Christ to be reconciled to God. So I'm going to be a beggar. And I'm going to go out there, I'm going to plant seeds, and I'm going to put stones. The way we say it, Stand to Reason, is we put stones in people's shoes. Have you guys ever had a stone in your shoe? Right? It stinks, but does it kill you? I mean, you're not going to die. But it stinks. You know it's there. It's annoying. So what we need to be is annoying for Jesus. No, don't be annoying. No, you want to have them walk away from the conversation maybe thinking about an issue that they haven't thought about or in a way that they haven't thought about it, yeah. So yeah, but those are really good points. Yeah.
I watched a video a long time ago about Stephen Hawking, and he brought up in one speech, he said that, like, quote unquote, people will always cling to religion because it gives comfort. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I'd say that he's not taken my position seriously. I don't cling to religion because it brings me comfort. Honestly, if I'm being honest, I'd cling to naturalism. Because again, we're big dudes. I'm going to get mine. You know, naturalism was can we just be honest? Guys, sin is fun for a time. I didn't reach a bottom. I didn't hit rock bottom. I was doing great. I was making good money. I was pursuing a career I loved. I had a really hot girlfriend that I eventually married. You know what I mean? Like, I had it all going on. I didn't need this Christian thing. So I don't believe because it brings me comfort. I think people who say that haven't actually thought about the Christian worldview. They haven't thought about it. We're not called to live in opulence and comfortable lives, guys. We worship a dying and rising Savior. And we're called, some of us in this room, to live life, all of us, taking up our cross daily, in whatever that looks like in your context. But it's not for comfort. So Hawking, he just doesn't take the view seriously. And that we can learn from that, by the way, because as Christians, when people come to us, we want to take their worldviews seriously. We want to make sure that we're not miscategorizing people's worldviews, because we hate it when they do it to us. So we want to get to know what people actually believe. Yeah, good question. Yeah, hi.
I feel like a lot of people who like are believers, they've got to me and like kind of like try to debate that whole like brain, like with all this like synapses and neurons and everything. Like, so I don't know how like I can really well like
Yeah.
debate that.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in like neurology and in the studies of the brain. Huge advances in the last 10 or 15 years have taken place. But something that's missing, we can tell when neurons are firing. We can hook stuff up to your cranium and certain areas of your brain light up when we show you pictures or say names or whatever it is. But notice what we still need is an interpreter. We still need the person to tell you what they're feeling, because the neurons that are firing are not the same thing as what you're feeling. It's related. You know, there's a correlation between our conscious selves, our souls, and in our brains to some extent. I don't know necessarily where that is. I don't think anybody knows where that is. But to say that those two things, that like say the blade of grass is the same thing as the neurons firing, it doesn't work. And I was alluding to it before because of the law of identity. The law of identity says that in order for two things to be the same, they have to share all the same properties. Well, the blade of grass in our mind actually is green. It actually does smell. And there's a feeling to it. None of those properties are possessed by the physical things, the neurons or the chemical juices that are flowing in our brain. So there's a correlation, yes. A relationship, yes. But they're not the same thing. You know, and people want to say that stuff to avoid this immaterial stuff. But it's clear that we have immaterial thoughts. We are immaterial beings to a certain extent. Yeah.
This is not really about apologetics. But
Great.
you're talking about the soul and how the consciousness is like gateway to the soul, or is it the soul?
I would say our conscious selves is an aspect of our soul.
Okay, so when someone is unconscious, like in a coma,
Yeah.
where do you think our soul is? Do you think?
I have no idea. None. I mean, I think it's, the problem is when we start asking these questions, like, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to put in something that exists outside of the physical world into the physical world. It's like asking, where's heaven?
Yeah.
I have no idea, but I know it's there, you know? But this is a great argument too, like our consciousness, right? So consciousness, right? Like if you fall asleep, are you less of a person? Like this is another argument that people will bring up to justify abortion. Oh, they're not conscious yet. Okay, so everybody's asleep, I can just kill you? They're not conscious. Or if you're in a coma, I can just kill you? That doesn't make sense, you know? But I don't know where the soul goes. Because I don't know whether, like, to ask the question, where is the soul? It doesn't make sense. Does that make sense? Kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. I'm doing good, huh? Yeah.
Do you think souls are why we dream?
I'm sorry.
Do you think the soul might be the reason why we dream?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Dreams are real, right? Dreams are real. I mean, they're not real in that, like, if you dream that you're, like, in a rainforest, you know, playing with, I don't know, frogs, that you're actually in a rainforest playing with frogs. Dude, wouldn't it be so cool if dreams were, like, real like that? Because, like, what I would do is I would try to get my wife to dream that we're in Hawaii every night, and then I would try to dream we were in Hawaii, and we get, like, free vacations all the time. It'd be so rad, but that's not how it works, you know? That's not how it works. Yeah, good question. Yeah, hi.
You said like trying to think about where our soul is, it's like where heaven is. So do you not think that our souls are on earth with us?
Yeah, again, I think I think asking that question, it's the wrong question, because the soul doesn't possess, it doesn't exist with like matter. It doesn't weigh anything, you know. It's immaterial. So in order to ask a location question, that item has to possess, it has to extend itself in the physical world, I think.
So since like we don't know if our soul is in this physical world, what about the Holy Spirit?
Same. It's the same reason why, well, how can the Holy Spirit be everywhere all at once? How can Jesus be currently, right now, residing with the Father, but also in us? Because there's something that's going on that's above this plane, right? When we start talking about this stuff.
Would you say that our soul is able to like be in like places like the Holy Spirit?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I have no idea. You should figure that one out, and then you can tell me. Sounds like a great project. So again, it comes back to I don't think so. It seems like there's a correlation between your body and your soul. Like it's like knit to you, kind of, somehow. Like my soul can't like go to you, right? That'd be weird. That's called possession. It's weird. No, like I don't like so our soul is there, it certainly is located somewhere. I just don't know how. I have no idea how that happens.
Because like we know that like the Holy Spirit is within us.
Yeah, 100%.
So wouldn't that be the same thing with our soul?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah, but the Holy Spirit's also within all of us. Yeah, it's weird. Totally.
I think like that's where the difference is.
Maybe.
Because like the Holy Spirit is Jesus, and Jesus has the power to be everywhere.
Well, the Holy Spirit's not Jesus. The Holy Spirit is the third person of the Trinity. So the Holy Spirit is God, the third person of the Trinity. Jesus is the second, right? So Jesus is the incarnation of the second person of the Trinity, and he possesses his own soul. So the Holy Spirit is its own entity. But yeah. Guys, if you want to know more about the soul stuff, read J.P. Moreland. He is so good on this stuff, and he'll make you. Those are really good questions. Sorry, I'm not satisfying them. Yeah.
Atheists try and explain away our like universal desire for meaning.
Yeah, you gotta like that's a problem. That's one of the bumps, man. I think that what does an atheist do with it seems like we all have meaning. Like why live? So I was talking to my mom. My mom is weird. Did I tell you guys this already? Shoot, I'm already repeating stories. It's only day 2. No, but mom was out for a visit, and my mother loves the stuff like the cosmology stuff. She loves looking at stuff. And she's watching like all atheists on YouTube because atheists are putting out really good stuff, to be honest, like really fun, clever videos. And she's watching them, and I'm just like listening to her and just asking strategic questions. And this was recently, the last time she was out, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. And it's funny, she left, she went back east, she's in Massachusetts. And the day after she got home, she calls me on the phone, and I'm driving. And when I pick up the phone, I was like, hey, man. She's like, hey, okay, don't yell at me, don't lecture me. I'm like, okay, well, great way to start the conversation. Am I known for yelling and lecturing you? And she says, I've been thinking about all of the cosmology stuff. And this is what she says. If this is all there is, what's the point? Yeah, Ma. What's the point? So this is someone who doesn't believe in transcendence, wrestling with transcendence, because we all have transcendence in our heart. Why? Because we're all made in the image of God. Right? He's made these things plain to us, is what Romans says. But we're just fallen and broken. We're dead in our trespasses and sins before Christ introduces himself to us. So I think that this is a real struggle for the naturalists. And as Christians, we don't have to answer that struggle for the naturalists. They need to answer it. So if a naturalist is struggling with meaning and purpose, I mean, we can point them to Christ, certainly. But it might be better to let them sit and struggle. Like, yeah, where do you derive meaning from? Outside of your personal drive. But again, I'll tell you what, like when we survey culture and we see people that chase purely their personal drives, oftentimes they get to the top, and when they find out all they have is more of themselves or more human effort, it leads them down very dark paths. I have so many testimonies from my suicide stuff of this, because naturalism at its core is it's a materialistic, narcissistic view of reality, and it leaves its proponents completely empty, devoid of purpose, meaning, and especially hope. Yeah.
Doesn't the fact that they need a meaning or purpose prove that they have a soul?
Yeah, I think so. What is that? I mean, they might argue it aids in their survival, maybe, but how? Why does purpose at all matter in survival? Again, I don't need to answer that question. They need to answer that question. Does that make sense? Sometimes as Christians, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, but we take on too much of the burden of proof. We feel like we have to explain every claim that's made, but people who make claims, they're just claims. There's no evidence yet, so wait till the evidence comes. This is a real question. What time am I supposed to be done? Who's wearing like one of the name tag things that has times on it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no way, we got more time. Okay, good. Are you guys okay? Yeah. Yeah, do you guys love me? Yeah. All right. How about this? I'm going to ask you a question. Why do you love me? Yes! Yes, because I'm made in the image of God.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter where I'm from or how smart I am or how well I present to you guys. You love me, hopefully, because I'm made in the image of God. Because I'm made in the image of God, I'm of infinite value and I'm unique. I'm worthy of your time and respect and your love, dang it. So you have to love me. What? Know what the coolest thing about image of God stuff, guys, is? This is free. This isn't even part of my talk. The coolest stuff about image of God stuff is even if you don't want to be made in God's image, you are. Even if you wanted to throw it off of you, you can't. I love that. I love being able to tell people and tell them, like, I love you no matter what you say to me, no matter how you treat me, no matter where you're from, what you look like, what you've been through. I love you because you're made in the image of God. That's so cool. What other worldview offers that? None. I mean, come on. This Christian stuff is so dang great. All right, one more question. Let's do questions. I can do one or two more, maybe. Hi.
Hi.
I love your questions.
Is the reason that people, I know this is okay. In their view of things, is the reason that more atheists, do more atheists convert to Christianity than any other religion?
Oh, I don't know. Do more atheists convert to Christianity than any other religion? This is just me being me, but I'd say yes, because every single person who ever existed, past, present, and future, will one day become a Christian, because they're going to recognize that Christ is Lord. Eventually. Maybe. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking that out loud, now I said it out loud, it doesn't sound as good as it did in my head, for reasons I won't share. But I think, I have no idea. What's an interesting trend right now, if you start looking at like sociology and stuff, the worldview studies that come out of places like Arizona Christian University and stuff like this by Barna, and the trending isn't, there aren't more atheists among kind of your generation, and there aren't more Christians. The levels are staying the same. What's happening is something called syncretism, where what's happening is young folks, students, you guys, you're taking worldviews and you're combining them. So it's like the Christian who says, yeah, I'm Christian, but I believe in reincarnation. So you're taking a system that makes kind of sense on this worldview, and you're going to draw it into your Christian worldview, but it doesn't work. But this is what's happening is we're treating religion like a cornucopia, like you just kind of pick, it's a buffet, right? You just pick what you want. But that has serious consequences, because it doesn't work.
Do you think that's because people are getting preached the wrong gospel?
Oh, the wrong gospel? I think that we Christians bear a fair amount of responsibility in that. You know, I think a lot of us are scared out there, to be honest. I get it. I totally get it. But yeah, I think sometimes we don't want to represent Christ in certain situations. I think there's a lot of baggage, that right and wrong, right, justified and unjustified baggage that comes with claiming the name of Christ. But I'll tell you what, I have so many stories of representing Christ at my law firm. Like, I was the only Christian at my law firm, and everybody knew I was a Christian. Everybody. Can I tell a story? Yeah. Is that okay? So there was a woman that I worked with. Her name's Gentry, and Gentry is a lesbian, right? And she was married. She had a wife, and her marriage was horrible. And she would come to me. She would come, of all the people in the office, I knew her we worked for almost 10 years together. She would come to my office, and she would say, John, Lanisha is driving me crazy. This is wrong. What do I do? And this is me from a completely different worldview. And I'd say to her, Gentry, you know what I believe. God is not going to bless your marriage. It's not justified in his eyes. However, if you'd like to sit down, I'll listen, and maybe I can offer you some practical advice that could temporarily fix your situation. And then I would, no lie, guys, I kept 2 ESV study Bibles on my desk. I would open one for her and one for me, and there we are in my office reading the Bible together. Fast forward, now I haven't been at that firm 6 years. I haven't been there in 6 years. About 2 years ago, Gentry calls me, actually she texts me out of the blue. Haven't heard from her in 4 years. John, can you give me a call when you have time? So I just called her right away. She said, oh my gosh, you called me right away. I can't believe it. I said, yeah, what's up, Gentry? She's like, well, I'm divorced. Yeah, okay. And then, and she called me because she has an autistic son. And part of his autism is he takes everything very, very, very literally. And he gets very passionate about what he's into. And 2 or 3 weeks before this call, he came home from school saying that he wanted to be a Christian. And Gentry explained to me that she is so scared that her little boy is going to hate her because she's a lesbian. Because he's going to read the Bible, and that's what he's going to come to believe. And she called me, and she said, John, do you think maybe you could help him read the Bible? Because she trusts me. And she doesn't trust me because I ever dumbed down the truth. She doesn't trust me because I made her happy with my words. She trusts me because I was always willing to tell her the truth, the exact opposite. But I did it in a way that I knew that she knew I loved her. You know, and this stuff happens when we're faithful. It's amazing what God will do. And I have so many of those stories. So many. I had an ongoing debate on the resurrection of Jesus with one of the head partners of the law firm. For 7 years, we debated the resurrection of Jesus constantly. You know, and I saw him go from atheism to agnosticism, which is a huge jump. That's a bigger jump in my book than agnosticism to Christianity, because at least now he's willing to question and explore the evidence. And it's just because you're faithful, you know? Yeah.
I was curious, how do you think the hardening of hearts, because in Scripture, a lot of talk about it, how do you think that plays into talking to atheists? Do you
Yeah.
think that it's like, are we just banging on hard hearts? Or
Well, we're trusting God. So how do we deal with the idea that an atheist's heart is, his hat is had, his heart is hard? That's a good one. Yeah, he's got a hat. And this goes back to we got to trust God. This is the way I look at it, right? This is the way I look at it. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, okay. So Paul tells us that we're dead in our trespasses and sins. He says that we're blind. Before Christ, we're blind. And think about it. Okay, if you see a blind person on the street, right? If you see a blind guy walking around and he's bumping into everything, he's falling over himself, are you going to go up to him and start yelling at him, "Why are you bumping into everything?" No. He's blind. You're going to go up to him and say, "Hey, I've noticed you're struggling. You seem to be bumping into something. Can I help you? Do you want to take my arm? Where are you going? I could lead you there." And it's the same thing in this faith thing, in this worldview thing. These people we're talking to, guys, they're dead. They're blind. They just need a little help getting pointed to the right direction. It's not because we're going to ultimately deliver them there. God's going to deliver them, or not. And I'm okay with either one, because God's in charge of that. But I'm going to lead him. I'm going to take him. Hey, here's my arm, man. I'll spend time with you. I'll walk with you. You know, try to get you to where you're going. We're all going there. There's a point in the future history of the universe, of the cosmos, that we're all going towards, right? History's spiraling that way. So we're all going there. How much better to have a guide that's patient and willing to walk with you, understanding that you're blind. Sometimes I think we feel like that, why would we expect non-Christians to understand the Bible? Why would we? Because you can't interpret the Scriptures without the Holy Spirit, not rightly. I mean, you can come to, and this is my story, right? I can come to understand the Scriptures as historically reliable, as documents that can be cherished for their literature. They can, and then they can point to the reality that Jesus is who he says he is, right? I think we can get there intellectually, but until we're saved, I mean, all of that knowledge is just knowledge. Does that make sense? One more? Just because I love you guys. Why do I love you? Those are amazing. Yeah.
Do you think Ecclesiastes can be a evangelical book and use it?
Dude, yes. You guys know Ecclesiastes? Memorize that one. Oh my gosh. I love Ecclesiastes. If you think about it, like, who wrote Ecclesiastes? Do you guys remember who Solomon was? I mean, he was like Israel. He was God's chosen king. He had everything. Did he have money? Power? Sex? Fame? Homie had it all. And then at the end of his life, towards the end of his life, how's he start his book? Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Homie is surveying his entire life, and he's saying life is meaningless. You fast forward like 3 or 4 verses there, he says life is like striving after the wind. Who can catch it? Of course, this is a great picture for modernity, where we spend so much of our life chasing after the things that we think are going to bring us satisfaction: money, power, sex, and fame. Hey, if I just had 1 million views, if I was just that YouTube guy, then we'd have it all. Well, that didn't happen to Solomon. Why would we think it happens to us? You know, it's a great tool. I love Ecclesiastes, man. And then he tells you at the end, it ends good, guys. You should read the book, but it ends really well. He tells you, well, if you follow God's law and obey God's commands, chase after God and pursue him with everything, that's where you're going to find your satisfaction. Yeah, Ecclesiastes is amazing. Oh man, I don't want to stop because I love you guys so much. But we have to. Because you guys have something at 8:30, right? Girls' night? And then I guess the guys are going to kill each other. I'm going to lock myself in my room. Woohoo! Let me pray. Holy Father in heaven, I'm so grateful for each and every student here, Lord. I'm thankful for the parents that are here and the guests, Lord. I'm thankful for the minds that you've given us to process this stuff, for the souls that you've implanted in us, Lord. I thank you even for our bodies, even though some of us have failing bodies right now. I thank you for them. I thank you that you have a plan and you're using us, God. But more than anything, above it all, I'm thankful for Jesus Christ. I'm thankful that you gave to us your only Son, that whoever should believe in him will not perish but inherit eternal life. I'm thankful that he has not come to judge the world or condemn the world, Lord, but he came to save it. And I'm thankful that we get to sit at your table, Lord. So as the night progresses, be with these students. Would they have a wonderful time in community together? No injuries during Nerf fighting, whatever it is. And God, I just want you to use us, transform us, and change us. And in the end, just help us love you more and each other better. In Christ's name, amen. Love you guys.